Hola, estudiantes! We've already learned how to conjugate preterite and imperfect, but now we have to learn when and how we use both of them together. We need both the preterite and imperfect at the same time in order to talk about the past tense in Spanish. This lesson comes from Capítulo 11, Gramática 30, página 334 from our libro de texto Puntos de Partida. You can also practice some more at our SpanishDict.com and take those practice quizzes that you have to review at the end of the week. Okay, so if we look at the past tense timeline in Spanish, you can see my terrible drawing of a dinosaur and a little sun for today and past times. Now, when we use preterite tense, and we'll learn more specific rules later, but when we use preterite tense, it's for a finished action that can only happen once. So here on my timeline, I've put yo nací. I can only be born one time, so this has to be in the preterite tense. It's a finished singular action. But I attended school for a long period of time. Yo asistía a la escuela. This is going to be an imperfect, imperfecto, because it's a repeated continual action. So we'll learn some more rules for imperfecto as well. You'll also notice that I put a tiny pink X inside my imperfect squiggly line because imperfect past tense can also be interrupted by preterite tense. We need both the imperfect and preterite together in order to talk about the past tense in Spanish. So I've put as my interruptive action, un día conocí a mi mejor amiga. I met my best friend one time. We're going to learn how some verbs change meaning if they are in preterite or imperfect as well, and conocer is one of those verbs. All right, let's learn some rules for when to use imperfecto versus preterite or preterito. First, we're going to use imperfect for repetitive actions, right? I went to school many, many times. Un ejemplo es cuando yo era niño, todos los días iba a la escuela y me levantaba a las 7 de la mañana. This means that while I was a child, every single day as a repeated action, a general repeated action, I went to school and I got up around 7 in the morning. Now, preterite, on the other hand, is a unique action, acción única. So, for example, el primer día que fui a la escuela me levanté a las 7 de la mañana. This means on the very first day, so it's a specific time, I went to school. So I only went to school on the first day one time. And that day at 7 in the morning, I got up. No, me levanté. So this is a preterite action. It's a finished, completed action. Una acción única. Next, we use imperfect for description. No, mi escuela era muy grande y tenía un campo de fútbol. Mi maestra era muy simpática. Anytime we describe something in the past tense, we need to use imperfect. This is because a description is something you have for a long time, and it's a very general concept and idea. We don't have specific ideas, right? So the school is big. It doesn't just get small like that. You need a shrink ray, which would be something out of a sci-fi movie. What we need to do here is describe things using the imperfect tense to imply that there was a longer duration of their attributes that existed in the past tense and possibly still exist. We also use it to describe age in the past tense, cuando tenía 8 años. Again, this is because it's a prolonged action. We're 8 years old for a full year, not just one specific moment. La hora eran las 8 de la mañana. Also, we use it to describe the time in the past. This is considered also another description. Emoción is also used in the imperfect tense to describe how we felt. Estaban felices. They were happy. And we can't determine the exact moment we felt something or didn't feel something or how long our feelings lasted. So we're going to be using the imperfect for descriptions of our emotions in most cases. Now, on the other hand, for preterito, we're going to use this for actions, right? Things that we did and that happened. So imperfect description, preterito action. So in a paragraph describing the past, we set up the scene by describing things in imperfect, and then we talk about the action that happened in the story with the preterite. For example, el primer día llegué a la escuela, caminé a mi clase y conocí a mi maestra, right? I walked to the school, right, into my class, and I met my professor. These were things that happened in that exact moment. They're actions that were completed. You walked to the class. Once you got to the class, that action of walking was finished. Excellent. We also use the imperfect to describe acciones en progreso or ongoing actions. This is equivalent to our was or were and the ing form in English. For example, I was walking. So we use this for acciones en progreso. Yo leía. I was reading. Notice that the tense in Spanish is shortened, right? Yo leía. Now, for preterit, these are going to be specific actions that may have interrupted those actions in progress. For example, yo leía, I was reading, cuando, when, Carlos llamó. So something or someone did something that interrupted that ongoing action. Another example could be, mientras yo cocinaba, mi compañero de cuarto estudiaba. So while I was cooking, my compañero de cuarto, my roommate, there's the word in English, I forgot the word in English, my roommate was studying, right? Now what happened while we were studying? De repente, suddenly, mi madre llegó a mi apartamento, right? So my mother arrived. So she arrived, it is a completed action, and then she interrupted what we were doing. Okay, so we've got actions in progress, and then specific actions that interrupt those actions in progress. We have a few more rules as well to remember. Imperfect is also used for pre-existing conditions, situaciones preexistentes. Again, if you think about it, it's a general concept of something over time or generally. So, hoy yo fui al doctor. Today I went to the doctor. That's preterit, right? But why did I go to the doctor? Porque tenía acné. It's something that I've had for a long time. There's an ongoing pre-existing condition. Tenía acné. I also don't know the exact duration of this, so this could fall under, again, a general, timeline of inexact time frames. Now, we also talk about ideas in the future, in the past. So if I had an idea a few days ago, then I talk about the idea in the past, I'll use the imperfect. Now, if I'm talking about an action that actually happened in the past, then I'm going to use the preterit. So let's see what this looks like. Hoy yo iba a traer mi composición, pero mi perro la comió, right? Today I was going to bring my composition, but my dog ate it. So what was I going to do in the past? I thought about bringing my composition today, but what happened? My dog ate it. Ayer yo iba a estudiar, pero me dormí. Yesterday I was going to study, but I fell asleep. So thinking about our ideas in the past and then what actually happened. So if we had an idea that wasn't realized in the past, we're going to use it in the imperfect, right? So it's an idea about the future that we had in the past that didn't happen. Now, if what did happen or what contradicts that idea is going to be in the preterit tense. We also can think about this as tiempo indefinido y tiempo definido. Imperfect is going to describe general, imperfect or undefined time frames. Cuando yo era niño, yo vivía con mis padres, right? When I was a child, I lived with them. Just very generalized time frames. We don't know specific dates and times. Now, on the other hand, for preterit, we do. Por 18 años, yo viví con mis padres, right? For 18 years. So I'm demarking the time frame. Then I say, I lived with my parents. Notice how there's a slight difference here. Now, we also have some different verbs that change when we use them in imperfect or preterit. For example, saber in the imperfect form means to know. Saber in the preterit form is going to be to find out. Conocer means to know. Conocer means to meet in the preterit tense. Poder in imperfect is going to be I have the ability or had the ability in the past. Preterit would mean I made an effort but I wasn't successful. Now we're going to conjugate these either in the imperfect or the preterit tense. Remember that in imperfect these verbs are regular verbs, but in preterit these verbs are irregular. Saber, supe, supiste, supo. So you might need to practice these a little bit more. Now for saber, yo sabía, I knew that information for a general amount of time, in perfect tense. Supe algo means in that moment I discovered some new information and I found out that information. Conocer, yo conocía a mi mejor amiga por muchos años, right? I know her, I've been friends with her for a long time. Conocí a mi mejor amiga my freshman year, no? That means I met her for the very first time. Poder, again, I had the ability. Podía bailar. I was able to dance and danced for many years. Pude bailar. I made an effort and I was successful. That day, I went to the tournament and I could do it. I did it. Excellent. There are also some trigger expressions that provoke either the imperfect or the preterite. Some of these expressions that trigger imperfect are todos los días, every day, general time frame, siempre, always, repeated action, right, and general time frame, mientras, while, actions in progress, frecuentemente, frequently, again, general repeated actions, con frecuencia, same as frecuentemente, de niño, as a child, general concept of a generalized time frame, generalmente, again, generalized time frame, muchas veces, many times, or repeated actions, y cada día, every day, a repeated event or action. Notice how these really all fall under the same umbrella of general concepts of time. Now, some trigger words for pretérito are un día, one day, specific time frame. Ayer, yesterday. Anteayer, day before yesterday. Anoche, last night. Specific time frames. De repente, suddenly, all of a sudden. Por fin, finalmente, finally. Something happened, finally. Dos veces, two times. I'm specifying that it didn't happen more than twice, so it's not a repeated action because it only happened those two times. El año pasado. I'm demarking last year. Hace un mes, 1 month ago. Hace una hora, 1 hour ago. Una vez, one time, finished action. El lunes, Monday, finished demarked time frame. El sábado pasado, finished demarked timeline. So again, all of these fall under that finished, completed action general idea. So thinking about imperfect and preterite, if you want to try and generalize, imperfect is for descriptions and things that happen generally that don't have specific time markers, whereas preterite, on the other hand, marks actions that are finished or are happening within a specific time frame. All right, so let's wrap it all up together one more time, if we can memorize this and remember when to use imperfect and preterite. So again, imperfect are for acciones repetitivas, descripción en el pasado, la edad, hora y emoción en el pasado, acción en progreso, situaciones preexistentes, ideas de futuro en el pasado y tiempo indefinido. Preterite, on the other hand, is for acciones únicas, acción específica, la acción que pasó y tiempo definido. And don't forget that some verbs like saber y conocer y poder change their meaning in imperfect and preterite. Okay, the only way to get better at using this is to practice. So there are a lot of activities for you to do today on your Connect homework. So go, try them out, pull out your list, take some notes, look at when we use each one and those special rules for each one, and try your best. Learn through trial and error. There are a lot of paragraphs with missing verbs in it where you'll have to choose whether the verb is in preterite or in imperfect. I've put a lot of these paragraphs there so that you can get practice. The only way to get better is to keep practicing and learning when and why you change these things. It's also how your exam will be. So the section over imperfect and preterite is going to be a paragraph where you need to determine whether or not to use preterite or imperfect, and you'll need to conjugate the verbs correctly. So pay close attention to your homework. I know it's a lot of grinding and trying things out, but I really think through practicing and seeing those mistakes and getting real-time feedback from the Connect homework, you'll really start to understand why and when and how we use imperfect and preterite. Okay, vamos a practicar. Adiós, I'll see you next week.